Okay, we are back. We have one recommendation which is going to be carefully phrased in relation to asking the cabinet member for a confidential update on some of the information that we have discussed. Do members have any other recommendations that they would like the committee to consider?
I think it's just being assured, and I can give my assurance that we should continue this dialogue of the delivery mechanism and the up and downs into this and make this project sort of successful. But there are a lot of, I think, discussion needed, and I would encourage through recommendation that the officers and cabinet member keep discussing, and I'm volunteering for any suggestion they would ask for through email or discussion button. Yeah.
Thanks, Altaf. I think we can probably phrase that as the same recommendation that we are kept updated with the progress of this matter, including with any confidential information marked as confidential as appropriate. Is that acceptable? Good. Anything else? No. In which case, with that recommendation, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. And Choi and Ian are still here for the next item, which looks like a very welcome report. Youth Hub at the Lees Pools and Leisure Centre. Choi.
Thank you very much. Today I've got good news papers. This is another good news paper in front of you. Basically, in partnership with the council, this council have secured more than 1.1 million to provide a youth hub in the Lees Pool and Leisure Centre. Again, there was a lot of work. I can see Egan and Ian with me here, because obviously under my portfolio, I've been wanting to do something for the youths in our city, and this is a welcome development. I must also make it recorded that, you know, the design you are seeing in there, it's as a result from the youths themselves. You can see that there are two parts of the grant that we have received, one of the capital and the other one with a revenue budget to support and recruit the staff to carry out the youth activities. That's the introduction. I don't know if Ian or Egan wants to come in.
Just a couple of bits, if that's okay, Councillor Congo. So clearly we mentioned that the proposal is also based on the local health profile. So lots of insight about what the engagement we did for the work, but also through the health profile, really screamed out these changes within the Lees Pools and Leisure Centre. So it really also aligns with the work we're doing to reimagine leisure, which I'm sure will come to another scrutiny date, not today, and really tries to bring the entrance, that part of the centre, to life. And the report goes through the soft play had its day. It doesn't have that sense of arrival. So as you see the designs in the appendices, they're really about bringing that space to life, animating the space, and really making it feel like it's a space for the community. Chewy went through the breakdown of capital and revenue. That's 100% externally funded. The council's commitments, the time to make this work. Now, it would have been great if we could get the revenue on a more ongoing basis, but clearly funders will very seldom give revenue, more likely to give capital. So we've looked at innovative ways to try and make sure we can continue with that provision. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Ian Hayden, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing more in addition, thank you.
Good. Any comments or questions from members of the committee? Lizzy.
Just to say first that this is really, really brilliant to see, and I was really pleased to see in the report as well that you mentioned that the programme had been developed in liaison with the young people themselves, which is so important. I think the programme really reflects that. The only things I was going to say is on that point that you last mentioned, Ian, about the future of the programme in my day life, hence not being able to speak properly today because I've spent all day with lovely year sevens, but my brain's rambled. I'm a teacher, and I think one of the things it's really important, particularly in communities like the Lees, is making sure that they have that that continuity. And if they build up some of those programs that are really amazing and important, like the one on masculinity, for example, and lots of other things where it's about well-being, if they're building up those relationships, we need to make sure as much as possible that we're not taking them away again after a year. So I wondered whether it could be put, actually, I didn't know how the risk registers work, but whether it could be put as a risk in the risk register, for example, the fact that the program's only currently got, well, you know, obviously we don't want to scale it back, but that is, in my eyes, a potential risk. And the other thing is, again, slightly with my work hat on, have you had much contact with the local schools? Because they obviously, and I know it will be done in, and I know it says it can be edited as we go along, but just making sure that it doesn't clash with, for example, I know school I work at has a homework club, for example, and just making sure that those things are all synergized, as it were. And also, for example, a group of kids could walk across together from a school to, anyway, those were just some ideas. So that was, I guess, those are sort of 2 recommendations there as well, if the committee would be happy with them.
Thanks. I'm sure committee will be happy. But before we come to that, Altaf and anybody else who'd like to ask a question? No, Altaf.
Yeah, looking at the consultation, I think is paragraph 19. Just to say, the young people will be central to the project activities. My recommendation or suggestion or question is that, as we all know, there are not many youth activities or youth hub places in Oxford. And if we are investing and utilizing and making this youth activities, so we're keeping in mind that we are delivering for whole of city, and there are youths in other part of city as well, and trying to engage as much as people, so the people can make good use of it. As in my ward in Headington, or say in East Oxford or North, there are not much of provisions for the young youths. So if we are investing, so we trying to making this as a citywide opportunity, and trying to getting all the youth clubs and scout clubs, engaging them so they can be using the facilities.
Thanks, Altaf. Mark.
From what Altaf said as well, I'm aware of this paper, but with my other hat on as a county councillor as well, and this is a flagship scheme, and hopefully this will be first of many. And all of this is done about evidence, data, research, and outcomes, looking at the deprived wards in the city, and followed on from what you said about the funding. What worries me is actually what happens in future years, and we've seen this before. So as much as I think this will be a flagship scheme with all the stakeholders and what it's going to deliver and everything else, it could be a bit of a political nightmare for us as a city council, where suddenly things just drop. And I'm just wondering what contingencies we've got in plan going forward. Are we confident, because through the grapevine I hear that actually the money might be available, but we just don't have anything in writing.
Thanks, Joy.
Yes, I'll say my mind here, and probably Hagan and Ian will come in. I welcome Liz the recommendation, and I think it's what obviously touches on with Ataf and Mark what they are saying in terms of continuation. So if it is okay, Chair, we accept the putting the recommendation of continuity as a risk that we can follow that over. Yes, Ataf, you are correct by saying that facility it should be for every youth in our city. Obviously, this is a grant, and the grant has got conditions, and we had to look at where we can find the place and apply, where we can successfully win the bid. And luckily it was in Blackbird Liz, but that doesn't exclude us from continuing to work to provide. This is just one example. Other members as well have raised the important point of consultation, and we are consulting with different youths, including certain section, probably, is it Christians, Muslims, so it is all inclusive. And the design is also from the youth, so it can be changed in the program. If you see, there's a lot of ranges, in the programs. There's for example, girls only sessions. There's a cooking. So we tried to cater, and probably what me and the officers will do is to market or advertise more, like we did in terms of the youth holiday activities, and finding other partners to market that, so that everyone is aware, and youth from Eddington or from Marston or from Churchill can come to Blackbird Liz. And I think this is correct, because we do some sessions there in terms of other activities, games. So we have got different groups of young people who come in there. I don't know if Egan and Ian wants to add anything.
Thanks ever so much, Councillor Nkonga. I would just add, I suppose in relation to some of the points. I mean, the bit about relationships with youth work, absolutely key. It's a really key point that's been made. And we have this problem sometimes with existing staff members where unfortunately they develop, they move on. But the way we're looking to try and mitigate some of that is having some core staff from the City Council and County Council linked into this work as well. So also be sort of some funded staff. There'll also be core staff as well. And then I suppose in relation to the point about future years sustainability, really good point as well. One we've been thinking through very sensibly. Of course, there might be opportunities from the funder, but they're never guaranteed. But we've also had really early conversations with quite a few different partners who are all really excited about this opportunity. Now that could include like the future leisure operator. We've included this within our tender discussions and our open dialogue with all of the operators there. It's included within the in-house bid as well. We've talked with other partners such as the police. We've talked with the local parish council at an early stage as well. So again, I think we're looking at potentially sort of different opportunities that might arise and could link in and could all sort of work together to try and make this more sustainable and longer term. Plus, obviously, working with volunteers within the area and within sort of the youth work world as well. So I'd also just quickly add that, I mean, the terms and conditions of the funding were very much, as Councillor Nkonga said, very much related to the area itself. So we have to demonstrate that in the first and foremost around our impact and how the money is being targeted and utilised. But of course, I mean, we've got a centre there which is open to everybody as well. And part of this project is really trying to make sure that there is cross-fertilisation of activities and facilities. So the whole centre becomes something which is really buzzing and thriving, both for young people and families within that area.
Thanks, Egan. Ian, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think so. We've looked at also, I think the risk is a good point, and we've looked at all sorts of ways to mitigate that. And as Hagan said, we've got the conversations within the leisure tender work. We also have our council community impact fund. Now we can use that to target in different ways, and we wrapped up our youth ambition bids within the community impact fund. So going forward, we can look at different ways to point that funding, subject to how we get on with the current funder and the county council and other partners. And then we also already have good options at the centre in relation to, we have a Friday night session which does attract people from a broader area. That's within our Life Chances programme, and again that's externally funded through a social impact bond that's been through the Scrutiny Committee a few years ago. The question, just to pick up on schools, really good engagement with the local schools, and probably a good strong example would be when we had initial sight of the funding opportunity, we pulled a partnership meeting together that included the Primary Care Network, Oxford Hub, Active Oxfordshire, but also Nora Ward, who's the head teacher of the local secondary school, came to those initial meetings. And her thinking was very much, well, this could be a real kind of hub and spoke linking within the secondary school children, could have a strong link to Duke of Edinburgh. And just a final point on the ability to attract people from a broader area. Yeah, as Hagan said, the conditions are in relation to areas of deprivation, but activities, we've already got the competition standard pool in the leagues that people do travel for. Aspects such as the climbing wall, I think people will travel for a climbing wall as it's something different than we offer in other areas of the city. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ian. Lubna, I heard.
Thank you, Chair. I've got quite a few questions. Is that okay? Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's some questions I just want to raise, like, for example, is this project, and by the way, this is really exciting, by the way, because I'm really passionate about young people, as you know, and I think it is a very exciting project. But what I wanted to ask is, people going to be allowed to come in from all areas of Oxford City? And if so, you know, is there going to be facilities for travel, like during the traffic time? I'm just looking at your timetable, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then obviously for the older batch as time progresses through the day. And that's just something to note out for now at this stage, if you can make that part of your plan. And also, I wanted to ask, the range of activities, obviously it will change with time, you know, given what more adults want. I think Lizzy's point is really important and detrimental. We're just coming out. In fact, we're still amidst a COVID-19 time where a lot of youth, because of the cost of living crisis, are going through serious mental health issues. And they're not easily picked up. And I think it starts from the age of 7, actually. So I think it's really important that there are these facilities for people across the city. Now, East Oxford, for example, really does need that help. I know with Oxford Youth Ambition, we're doing a great job, but I think we can do a lot better as well, especially if this pot of funding is coming. I think it needs to be attractive for children to keep going. And that the staff is the other point I wanted to make sure that it said. It'd be really nice if people from all backgrounds were actually the staff teaching, not somebody who looks like a particular way, but a range of different. I think for me, when I was growing up, I think it's really important, the role models that you have, especially here in Oxford, which is an international city. So I think, you know, it'd be really helpful if we can really make sure that there's women there as well, because this is a very crucial age for people turning into adults. And also the other thing I wanted to ask Cherry was, you know, the age range you've put in here, is it from 7 to 19? Or because I can only see up to, I think 12 or 14 did you put in there? Hagan, anybody, if you can help me with that.
Yeah, I can do, Chair, if you'd like me to respond.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the age range is 11 to 18 and up to 25 with special educational needs and disabilities. So that's the age range. Again, that aligned with the funders, the funders direction on that. Again, like I said, I think there's work that we can do around, you know, ensuring that broadens out around the wider centre, so the linkages into the broader offer at the site, so families, you know, siblings, that type of thing, really.
Thanks, Hagan. Lubna, you had another point.
Yes, please, Chair. I just wanted to say, you know, one of the key things when I'm speaking to young people is that they want to be, they're in crossroads between education and work. And one of the biggest frustration for our youth here is the fact that, they're not shared information about entrepreneurship. Now, Cherry, I know that you're very business-minded and something that you could expertise in helping put forward to this. But I think you said Princess Trust. Now, Princess Trust only goes up to a certain age. And if you've passed that point, you're not in. I've really looked into this, and it'd be helpful if you can open the pathway for any of these type of groups that our young children, young people can be part of that itinerary. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Lubna. Chele.
Thank you, Lubna. You raised one important point there, whereby you talked about diversity in the staff that will be there, because every youth must relate. So that's something I think the council deals in terms of our DI strategy. We'll also take an important point, your second point, about offering more services to young people. You say educating them, for example, other things like being in entrepreneurship. I think this is something we can discuss and can be incorporated in terms of if we invite a peer or a role model to talk to them, then we can itemize that, they include such programs, to help out young people. Thank you.
Thanks, Chele. Ian or Hagan, anything to add on that?
Just a few bits, if that's okay, Chair. Some really good points. Lubna, in relation to clearly lots of stuff in relation to that broader view of the person, and lots of our work through Youth Ambitions about resilience and confidence in the young person. Clearly, we are a relatively small player in relation to the impact on young people's lives, but clearly working with schools, working with the county, working with the CVS is really important for us. We've laid that approach out in our Thriving Community Strategy, and we refer to this work strand within there. And within the strategy, it's all about connected, healthy, and productive young people. So this really supports the commitments we've made in our Thriving Community Strategy to work on supporting young people to try and enable the issues, the growing issues, as you point out, Lubna, in relation to young people's mental health and a knock on that has within their ability to be as successful as they could be. I think this has got a role to play knitting that together, and hopefully it'll help us continue to bring partners together. I was just looking at the question in relation to the range of activities and also the gender balance, Lubna. And again, in the first meeting we had about this with partners, we talked about the lack of representativeness we have in areas. So in Youth Ambition, we've got really good diversity in relation to ethnicity, but we still grapple a bit in relation to girls, especially this age group. So we are going to be doing as much as we can to encourage young people in areas where there are discrepancies in usage. Clearly, one is gender. It is focused in relation to disparity. It is focused in relation to disadvantage. So the targeted work from those youth workers will be focused where they can have the greatest impact, where there are the greatest levels of disadvantage. And the question in relation to travel, we're not within the scheme proposing to put travel on for young people, but just kind of to support what we can in relation to accessibility. So by nature, the local area where our significant disadvantaged young people we're focusing on a lot of the work, but it's not to say young people cannot travel from other areas of the city, but that will be the focus of the youth workers. I think that was the key point sort of to make, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Altaf.
Yeah, I think Mark touched and other people. I still wanted to understand that this green flag or whatever flag grant which coming to do. I'm not against having blackbird leases, fine, having there. What I wanted to understand, is this grant restricted to the just area, or is this grant is there because we got facilities there to improve and build. So if that grant is there, then it's up to the city council to make it wider and allow everybody and all over the city and trying to engage all the groups and let them come. And if this is restricted, we should make it very clear that this is a restricted grant and it should be stayed in the area.
Thanks, Altaf. Ian or Hagan or Joey, do you have a response?
I've just got you. Go, sorry.
Hagan will take that.
Yeah, the grant is restricted to the area, so that was part of the terms and conditions of grant. That it was linked to that area, obviously, in relation to the localized needs within that area. But what I suppose was trying to sort of articulate earlier on is that there are still opportunities for other young people across the city to actually be part of like the wider area of the hub. So the hub is within one element of the leisure centre, and what we're trying to do is make sure that the hub facilities talk very well to the rest of the facility at the Leeds Leisure Centre, so it becomes something which is really attractive to young people. So there's cross fertilisation both from the hub into the leisure centre and vice versa. So that there is still opportunity for young people to use that, but the focus of the youth work and of the actual funding must be against that area, that localised area.
Thanks, Hagan. Any more questions or points from members of committee? Seeing nothing. Good. We've had some reassurance about the diversity of the offer, particularly in relation to role models. So thank you for that, officers. We had Joe, I understood you to be accepting the recommendation relating to the risk register. Is that right? Good. Thanks. Joey nodding there. Was there another recommendation, Lizzie?
Yeah, but I think it was just about engagement and ongoing engagement. So I'm happy to put that in there, but it sounds like it's been done anyway.
It sounds like it has been answered. Great. Anything more that members of the committee would like to put in as a recommendation on this report? Seeing nothing. Good. So can we agree that recommendation? Yep. Good. And thank you, Joey and Ian and Hagan, for attending, and you are now free to go.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Joey.
Thank you, Chair.
Take care.
Okay, then.
Great. We now move back onto our main agenda, item 5, the work plan and forward plan. Alice. We have the budget.
Budget review group.
Okay, that's item 7 on my agenda, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it's just that way round.
Huh?
Yeah.
So we agreed to move items 8, 9, and 10. In our agenda is the work plan.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the work plan and forward plan are included in the agenda pack. For the October meeting, 3 cabinet items are currently listed, which have been discussed with the Chair. So that's the LGA Corporate Clear Challenge report, delivery of electric vehicle infrastructure for Oxford, and the Oxford Local Plan 2040 Regulation 19 document. And then for the November meeting, we have the grant allocations and the council tax reduction scheme reports currently listed. On the 1st of September, there was an updated forward plan published, which is available on the council's website, but I've also printed a few copies, which you'll find on your tables. It's not one each, save on paper. There have been a few changes, but there's no proposed changes to the work plan as listed in the agenda pack for October, but for the November agenda, there have been a few sort of report additions. So assuming no report slippage, the officer recommendation is to include the integrated performance report for Q4 22-23 on the December finance and performance agenda. That would be post cabinet, which is a little bit unusual, but given that it won't be a sort of specific decision report, it's been discussed with the chair of the committee and the chair of the finance panel, and both are in agreement that that'd be useful to inform budget discussions and also free up agenda space on the November committee agenda. And then for the November Scrutiny Committee, it's proposed that the Equalities Update, Council Tax Reduction Scheme and the grant allocations reports are put forward. They're all annual items that the committee should be considering. And there is potentially space for one more item at the committee, which would probably be either the leisure management contract or the central conservation area appraisal. If the committee at this point has any particular preference, please do let me know, but we don't need to make a decision until October committee if members want to hold off. For December, again, assuming no report slippage, we'd have the Authority Monitoring Report and Infrastructure Funding Statement, which is an annual report again, the Oxfordshire Food Strategy Action Plan, Joint Venture LLP for South Oxford Science Village, and then for Finance Panel, the Integrated Performance Report for Q2 23-24, the Medium-Term Financial Strategy and Consultation Budget, and then there's a Private Rented Sector Regulation Policies for Housing and Homelessness Panel. If there's any change to the forward plan in between times, those would come to committee where time allows, otherwise they'd be agreed in consultation with the chair. And then also to update on the work plan discussion from July. So the following items have been scheduled into the work plan. The Tourism Review Group update is due to come in March 24. The Domestic Abuse Review Group update, we're just finalising a date for that, but an update is available. And then the item on adult exploitation is currently penciled in for December, but it might slip if December becomes unusually busy with other items. And as always, if any members of the committee have further suggestions for Scrutiny Commission work, please let me know either now or feel free to email me so they can be explored. And the committee is recommended to confirm the work plan with any amendments following discussion. Thank you.
Many thanks, Alice. As Alice has said, we don't need to make a decision today, but is there anything either that leaps out of the leisure management contract or the central conservation area appraisal that you think we definitely need to be considering at the November meeting? That's but I'm not sure which one it was an too. Have room on the agenda for that?
I'll probably have to take that away and
Thanks.
just look at that more.
Okay, so both, we don't have to make a decision today, so both if possible, but if not possible, we can make a decision as to which report to consider at the next meeting. Any other comments on the work plan? It all seems pretty sensible to me. No. Good. So can we confirm the work plan as set out? Yeah. Good. Excellent. I am leafing back through here. Work plan and forward plan. Hopefully we can deal quickly with the report back on recommendations. At the two meetings on the 12th of July and the 9th of August, Cabinet considered scrutiny recommendations related to 9 reports. I don't intend to go through them all. The responses are in your agenda pack. Lucy Pegg, our chair, asked me to report back briefly from the company's scrutiny panel verbally. Most of the agenda was confidential. Items were considered relating to ODS and to Oxford, the Oxford West End development. Thanks to Councillor Alistair Morris, who's a member of the panel, for contributions. As I said, most of the items were confidential. The one thing that I can report is ODS is projecting a modest increase about 11% in surplus for the last complete financial year 2022 to 23. It does bear keeping an eye on, because as scrutiny members will be aware, ODS's projection, ODS's business plan for income in following financial years is quite ambitious. So that's something that's that bears the panel and indeed where appropriate scrutiny committee keeping a further eye on. Lizzy, you have a brief report back, I believe, from Housing and Homelessness.
I do, and everyone will be glad to know that I've actually written the words down so I don't have word salad this time. So Housing and Homelessness panel has heard reports. We've had 2 meetings, I think, since the last scrutiny meeting. So we looked at the future resettlement commitments for new refugee families, the tenant satisfaction survey, the expansion of the Housing First programme. We had an update on customer complaints and feedback, and we also had a look at the action plan update on the mini review completed a couple of years ago on tenant satisfaction, as well as looking at the usual KPIs and things. Many of these weren't cabinet reports, but where they weren't cabinet reports, the panel has been able to provide what we hope is useful input and information for officers on ongoing work, as well as scrutinising the implementation of recommendations from the previous mini review on tenant satisfaction. And it was great to see that most of those were well on their way, if not already implemented. Following some really brilliant and robust discussions, which I would like to thank officers for, we have made several recommendations on cabinet reports, which I think have all been fully or partially accepted, and those have covered discrepancies and clarity in reports, report language, particularly around the language we use to talk about refugees, and also data and communication within the council and to residents. We've got some interesting work coming up in the pipeline, so we're going to look at a mini review of housing associations to round off our work on tenant experience and communication, and we're also going to have a look at the transformation of housing services and on ongoing work on Housing First. So I just wanted to thank the panel members and officers for their time and the brilliant work they've been doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Lizzy. Any questions or comments from members of committee on anything on this item? Seeing nothing good, can we note the responses to the recommendations that are in your agenda pack and the verbal updates we've received? Thanks very much. And last substantive thing is the budget review group scope, Alice.
Thank you. So at its first meeting of this municipal year in June, the committee established a budget review group to examine the council's budget for 2024-25. The membership of that review group, which was agreed in June, is identical to the membership of the Finance and Performance panel. So that's Councillor Fry as the chair, and then supported by Councillor Jafari Marbini, Councillor Jarvis and Councillor Smoten. The proposed scope is broadly similar to previous years, as are the dates and the timeline proposed. It's quite a short, intense piece of work. Members of the review group, the cabinet member and relevant officers have all been sent the dates. The committee is recommended to consider and agree the proposed scope or agree any amendments as required. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Alex. There's no real change there, as you say. Any questions or comments? Seeing nothing, I propose therefore that the scope be agreed as a formal decision. So can I have a second there, please? Mark, thank you very much. All those in favour? Great, thank you very much. The final thing on the agenda is dates of previous meetings, and we do actually have a decision to make here, because we have the next meeting on the 10th of October, and neither Lucy, the chair, nor I are available for that date, unfortunately, unavoidably. So we need either a substitute chair or a substitute date. The easiest thing is a substitute chair. Who is definitely going to be here for that meeting? Anybody? Mark, Chris. Oh, good. Okay, we have quite a few people. Yeah, excellent. Okay, splendid. Any nominations for somebody to chair the meeting? I will. Sorry?
I'll nominate myself.
I'll second that. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody?
Everything's just previous chairperson.
Chris?
I'm very happy to rise from the dead for this purpose.
All right. Good.
I'll take my nomination away.
Okay,
I'll
good. In which case, it's agreed that Chris will chair our next meeting, and please note the dates of the other future meetings. And with that, I call the meeting.